it's important for us to establish what the goal is here. A lot of people, they try and make the goal to not sin. And they focus on, I just got to not sin, I just got to not sin, I just got to not sin, I just got to not look at that website, I just got to not have those conversations, I just got to not be around those people. And what we find, or what I find, is that when we focus on something, we inevitably end up heading towards that thing. We inevitably end up going in that direction. So what happens if our mind is constantly on do not sin, do not sin, do not sin? We walk into a place of sin because our mind's constantly thinking about that thing. It's like when you try to forget something intentionally, the more that you try to forget it, the more that you actually remember it. When I was a kid, I used to watch horror movies at my friend's house, and I would get the memories of that movie in my head, and it would scare me enough. So I would try to forget them, but I was trying to forget them, and I would keep remembering that little crazy demonic doll that was killing people. And the more I remembered it, or the more I tried to forget it, the more I inevitably ended up remembering it. So what's the solution? The solution is not to focus on dissolving a negative outcome. The solution is actually to focus on producing a godly outcome. It says this in the Bible. It says that as we behold him, as we behold Jesus, we become more like him. As we begin to see Jesus, as we begin to experience him, as we begin to walk with him, as we begin to hear him speak to us, we become more like him. Because Jesus is our example. He's not the exception, he is the example. Our goal should be to see Jesus, to be more like Jesus, to walk like Jesus, to walk in holiness, to walk in love and in righteousness. Because as we focus on, okay, what does it look like to walk in holiness? What does it look like to walk in love? Instinctively and automatically, we head in that direction. Almost like when you're driving, if you're looking at something while you're driving, you inevitably end up turning towards that thing, because where our eyes are pointed, what we're looking at, what we're focused on is the direction that we inevitably will go. If we fill our mind with the things of God and with becoming more like Jesus and the pursuit of him, and walking in holiness and walking in righteousness and walking in his love fills our mind and becomes the attraction of our heart, is the thing that draws our heart, and our life is so consumed by the things of God, we're not going to have time for those other things. We're not even going to desire those other things, because in the light of his glorious grace, in the light of the joy and the peace of his presence, those things come to nothing. In fact, that's often why a lot of people fall into sin, because they're trying to satisfy something in their heart. They're trying to satisfy a God-given desire, but that desire is not being satisfied in a godly way, it's being satisfied in an ungodly way. So if our main focus is just to stop doing something ungodly, the desire is still there. Therefore, we need to satisfy that desire in a godly way, with the way God intended it to be satisfied. An example of this is marriage. God made sex, but he made it for the context of marriage. Sex is a good thing, is a beautiful thing for the context of marriage. But if people are looking at pornography, or they're lusting over someone, there's a desire in the heart of people for intimacy, for close intimacy in a romantic relationship, in a marriage context. But if it's not being satisfied in a godly way, people will go to an ungodly way to satisfy. If the goal is just to stop looking at pornography, but you still have a desire for intimacy in your heart, then you're going to be left still dry. You're going to be left still hungry. And what are you going to do if you're not finding that intimacy in the presence of God and God? You're going to end up going back into that place of sin. Your heart is longing to satisfy this desire, and if it's not being satisfied in God, it's going to be satisfied in something else. If we can understand this, that the goal is not to stop doing something bad, but it is to pursue something good. It will radically change the way that we approach sin, the way that we live our lives, because now we won't have to live in fear. We won't have to live in the control of that fear. We won't have to live constantly thinking and plagued in our minds by don't do that, don't do that, don't look at that, don't say that, don't do this. This big rigid weight on us, always no, but it's indulge in the things of God. indulge in His presence, indulge in His word, indulge in His majesty and His beauty, and let that be the pursuit of your heart. Let that be the goal of your life. Not to not sin, but to pursue Him. And in the pursuit of Him, you will see more and more sin's going to drop off your life. Addiction's going to drop off your life. Those bad habits, that language, that way of thinking, your desires are actually going to shift. And you're not going to desire to do those things or watch those things anymore, but you will have brand new desires, and you'll be like, man, I want to worship God. I want to be in His presence. I don't even want to do those things anymore. If we can intentionally make that shift in our minds, it's going to radically change our walk with God and the way we live our lives. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you could like, comment, share, subscribe. I'd also love it if you guys wanted to share a testimony down below. I'd love to read on how God is moving in your life, how He's liberating you and teaching you to walk in freedom, to walk with Him, and to lay down those weights and those sins, to run the race that is set before you. God bless, and I'll see you in the next video.